Seasoned with Grace Unbox presents Tune Up Tuesdays. This live weekly event is here to provide you and your family with tools for stronger family relationships. And now, here are your hosts, Doctors Robert and Denise Davis.
Hi, and welcome back to another week of Seasoned with Grace Unbox, Tune Up Tuesdays. Seasoned with Grace Unbox is a Denver-based nonprofit that provides family and relationship services to businesses, community organizations, and churches to improve relationships and increase productivity. We also work with individuals in addiction recovery, those transitioning from prison back to the community, as well as at-risk youth.
Seasoned with Grace presents Tune Up Tuesdays so that we can give viewers tools and strategies to tune up and to improve and to enhance their family relationships. We want to help you to gain a better understanding of your family, as well as the tools and skills to improve your family relationships. So Denise, let's get started.
All right. So again, we're quoting from Murray Bowens, Family Therapy in Clinical Practice, page 436. It says, when any key member of a family can accurately observe what is going on in their family, as well as the part they play in it, when they can control their own emotional reaction, and when they can avoid counterattacking when they're provoked, and when they can maintain an active relationship with the other key members of the family without withdrawing emotionally checking out or becoming silent, the entire system will change in a series of predictable steps. So this is the essence of producing change in your family's system. This is the method of coaching one person through the predictable functioning of their family system and supervising their efforts to modify their own functioning in all other relationships.
So last week we learned that we need to be aware of the role that we play in the family. We discovered that every person plays a particular role within their family because families need individuals to do certain things, to act a certain way in order to regulate anxiety, in order to help the family to perform certain functions, etc. So we end up developing certain roles. And one of the things we talked about last week was having a better understanding of the role that we play within our family. Matter of fact, our homework assignment was to answer questions about the roles that you perform in your family's emotional functioning, not just in washing dishes or who changes the tires on the car or who's responsible for depositing the money or picking up the dry cleaning and things of that nature. But we want to talk more about the emotional functioning. What everyday functions do I perform for my family? How do I respond? These are the questions we had last week for our homework assignments. Right. How do I respond during family conflict when situations become emotionally tense? What do I usually do when other family members are in conflict? How do I help manage conflict between family members? What responses can my family predict that I will have during conflict or decision making or family management or life responsibilities, those kind of things. Right. What can they predict will be my various responses in those various things?
So this week we're going to talk about the part that says control your emotional reaction. What does it mean to control your own emotional reaction?
So far, and before I answer that question, let me just give a little background. So far, since we've been together, we have listed the key members of our family.
We did.
We have begun the discipline of accurately observing what's going on in our family.
We did.
Last week, we started to explore the role that we play in our family. And so today, we're going to go even deeper into our family functioning. As you just said, we're going to talk about controlling our emotional reactions. Once our role in the family has been programmed into our emotional computer, then we learn to respond in certain predictable ways. So based on the family that we come from, based on the history, based on the geographic and cultural and all those other different things, there are certain responses, emotional responses, that are programmed into us that literally become predictable. We can almost predict how a person is going to respond when someone says something this way or that way, etc. This is where we have to understand that blaming our parents or certain people in our family is quite unproductive. Because I want you to think about this for a moment. If I were to blame, let's say, my father, I say, okay, my father is the problem for why I am the way I am, whatever my anger issues may be or whatever it may be. The question we have to ask is, then why was my father the way he was? All right, well, he's the way that he was because of his mother and father. Okay, well, then why are they the way that they are? So we can continue to play that blame game, and how many generations do we go back?
But our parents do play a role in what has happened to us in life and has shaped how we react to certain situations.
Yeah, and that is true. So we're not trying to say that we don't identify. Remember, we do want to identify how our family functions. Mm-hmm. We want to understand what the key members of our families are and what roles they play, as well as the roles that we play within it. What we're talking about is playing the blame game. That's the part that's so unproductive. So understanding is one thing, but at some point I have to get to the place where I say, you know what? This is the way that my family functions. This is the way that I have been functioning in that as well. Mm-hmm. So my family functions a certain way. Here's the role that I play. The stage has been set before I'm born.
Right.
As we talked about the last time, before I'm even born, the stage is set. Right. And so here I come into this set. And what is the part that I'm playing?
You just got on the stage.
Yeah. So once I understand that, I can begin to make certain changes. Because unless I know what's going on, it's very difficult for me to make those changes. So I can begin to make certain changes within myself once I have an understanding of how my family functions, the role that I play, and then as we're talking about today, the emotional part that we play in that. Okay. So like ourselves, we're born in a certain place in our family, and we're pre-programmed, and I don't want to use that term, we're pre-programmed to perform a certain emotional role within the family system. We are pre-programmed to perform a certain emotional role within the family system.
So last week we used the example of a girl or a woman who has been abused and who says to herself, I'm going to have a child so I can have someone to love and someone who can love me. So Robert, as we talk about the role we play in the family, perhaps we should unpack the example a little bit more.
Okay, so let's do that.
Okay. What may become the emotional needs of this child when it becomes old enough to develop their own romantic relationship?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about a mother who has a child and says, I'm going to, she was abused, so now she wants to have someone who she can love and someone who's going to love her unconditionally. And then the question that you ask is, how will this child develop romantic relationship, or what may be the emotional needs, I think was the question. What are the emotional needs when this child begins to develop romantic relationships? So if this child, and we're going to use this term called focus, if this child is the focus of one or more parents, so that the parents' emotional needs are now being met by this child is what we call the focus child. Mm-hmm. If this child was the focus child, we cannot predict how each person is going to respond because there are so many different variables. But we're speaking hypothetically here. So hypothetically, this child could very well need that type of emotional reinforcement. This child may very well need to have a relationship that is very enmeshed, where they're each all into each other. Mm-hmm. That may be some of the emotional needs that we see developing as this child.
So that's their programming.
So yes, the child was pre-programmed. Mom was very much focused, and as this child grows, this child says, well, you know what? I need to continue to have that type of focus within my life.
Okay, so how may this child respond to emotional or romantic rejection?
Again, we don't know exactly because every individual is different. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why we're even using this scenario if, in fact, everyone is different. But again, this child very well may respond once they feel rejection. They may feel rejected. So this child may respond with anger. This child may respond by becoming more clingy to the person who they're entering into a romantic relationship with. So as the person begins to reject them, they may feel a sense of, oh no, I got to hold on even more. That goes into this whole bargaining process that sometimes goes on within relationships. So there are a myriad of ways that this individual could possibly respond. There is a dynamic, as we talk about emotional rejection, there is a dynamic in all emotionally connected relationships where both people attempt to find this balance between togetherness and separation. And so all of us look for this balance between togetherness and separation, how close we want to be, but then how much I want to have my own space. The more a person is emotionally mature, and the clinical term is differentiated, the more a person is emotionally mature or differentiated, the easier it is for them to find that balance of closeness and separation. The less emotionally mature a person is, then they tend to go to one or two extremes. Of course, you want to be balanced. So if you're not balanced, you're going to be on one extreme, which is you're over clinging all up underneath the person, or the other extreme, which is, the emotional withdrawing, always finding reasons to exit the relationship, always running, et cetera, et cetera. And so there is that delicate play.
Okay. So question. As this child begins to develop its own relationship, especially romantic relationships, how would you see this child's effort to balance closeness and distance unfolding?
So we talked about this child possibly being someone who is the focus of their mother. So this child grows up and they are wanting to have that emotional focus on them. So you can see them doing things, sometimes manipulatively, and using other strategies to try to continue to receive that emotional connection, that emotional closeness, that enmeshedness that they have received from their family, that there's been, that's the role that they played. They played a role where their mother needed someone to focus on and to be enmeshed with. And so now they're going to continue to perpetuate that in future relationships. Possibly, again, there's no 100% on anything, but possibly could look to do that. And I want to go one step deeper. I want to talk about the emotions that our roles in the families produce. So once we play a role, because this is very important to understand, it's not just that we each play a role in the family, because we've been sharing a lot of clinical stuff, but I want to bring it home. It's not just that we play a role in the family, but there are certain emotional responses that come about as we are carrying out that role. If we look at this child as it grows, we may start to see certain types of emotions developing as the other person or persons in their relationship start to distance or fail to provide the level of attention that they've come to expect. You may see them experience emotions such as fear or anger or resentment, abandonment, loneliness, anxiety, frustration, etc.
So then, in the family system, our emotions are often an outworking of the role that a person plays in the family. Okay? And the roles people play in families is influenced and impacted by the functioning of previous generations.
That's 100% correct. And that's where I want us to pause just for a second and talk about it a little bit more. Because it's not necessarily trying to figure out how every individual is going to respond to a particular situation. Because that's fluid. What I mean by that is, if I say to one person, you stink, they may bust out laughing. I say to another person, you stink, and they start crying. I say to another person, you stink, and they become very angry and are ready to become violent. So, you don't know how the person is going to respond. That response is going to be determined by a lot of different factors, such as the community that they were raised in, what their culture dictates, the role that they were playing in their family, what their parents did, if there was abuse, if there was neglect, if there was abandonment, if there was emotional over criticism, overly connected, if there was overly distant, all those different things are going to factor into it. So what I want to understand is not what everyone else may or may not do in a particular situation that I find myself in, but rather, what am I doing? What are my emotional responses that I find myself in a various situation? The second question I want to ask myself is, of course, the role that I play in my family. And as I'm playing out this role, so how does my family function, which is the first thing we talked about. The second thing is, what is the role that I'm playing in it? And then what are the emotions that are accompanying me as I am performing that particular role within my family?
Okay, so as we're heading into the Thanksgiving holiday, this is the time families come together,
Yes.
right? So this is a great opportunity for us to observe our family's system, the role we play, and our emotional response.
That is 100% correct. So we're about to wrap it on up because people want to have Thanksgiving. They need to do some grocery shopping. They need to start cooking and getting ready. Even though this is Tuesday, they need to start getting ready for Thursday because Thursday is coming. So let me give them their homework assignment. Next week, we're going to come back and look at emotions a little bit more. So we just kind of give them the introduction. But this is Thanksgiving week, as you just said. And so the homework is going to be simple. I want you to journal everything you think is relevant about what your family did, the part you played, and the emotions that you felt. Let me say that one more time. I want you to journal this week, especially Thanksgiving, everything you think is relevant about what your family did, the part that you played, and the emotions that you felt. So that's your homework assignment for next week.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for now. We'll be back here next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Tune-Up Tuesdays, because even the smoothest families, the smoothest running families, need a Tune-Up Tuesday. See you next week.
Take care.
Thank you for watching Tune Up Tuesday. You can connect with us on Facebook or check out our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org. Again, thank you for watching and tune in next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another insightful episode of Tune Up Tuesday. Seasoned with Grace Unboxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org.